No, no. Just keep on holding. Hold on, hold on.
All right, welcome to Across the Case. My name is Dylan Dove. This is a podcast about how business and retail actually works. When the door closes, real conversations start. We talk with operators, leaders, builders, what's broken, misunderstood, what truly drives results. No fluff, just experience. And today, we're sitting down with the one and only William Jones with some Roman numerals after it. I don't know actually if you're the fourth or fifth, but I know that there's some Roman numerals there. One of the most respected luxury retailers in the country, known for elite sales execution and customer experience with Sissy's Log Cabin. William, thanks for being here.
Yeah, it always seems weird when people say that. I guess we get big compliments and everything like that, but we're from one of the poorest areas in Arkansas, and it's every day somebody says it doesn't feel true, but we try hard every day.
First question, are you the fourth, William Jones the fourth?
Yes, I'm the fourth.
Okay, I've always seen your Roman numerals. I didn't know which ones they were.
Yeah, no, I'm the fourth. Father's the third, and so forth. My son's the fifth, and so I like to joke around about it, call it version 4.0, because there's something about where you grow up like a family name, and then having to live up to it, especially from the people that I've had to live up to. My dad's very well recognized in the industry. Grandfather was electrical engineer, had a big career and stuff like that too. So it's kind of something you're proud of later in life.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, really quick, just for everybody watching or listening, this is our first episode, so we're going to be reading stuff, and it's going to be shooting from the hip, but it's going to be some good stuff. I'm really excited to sit down and introduce everybody to William and learn a little bit more about William and Sissy Log Cabin's success that they've had. Really quick, just some kind of human context, William. You're a dad, you're a husband, you run a jewelry store. You're also my boss.
Yeah. No, I'd say more colleague than anything like that. I've got two kids. I've worked in jewelry my entire life. President of Sissy's Log Cabin. We brought you on specifically for more of the software side, which is really the area that's kind of we're seeing grow quite a bit and really help us in the retail area too. So it's like nonstop, 6.5 days a week of work and just constant problem solve.
My favorite is the emails I get at 3 a.m. Utah time because you're on a meeting getting something.
Yeah. Well, I try and schedule them out to most people, but it is. I was always grown up like if you were going to work with people, then you had to be the hardest working person in the room, or else it's hard to listen to anybody that kind of leads from behind. So, and plus, I just love to work too. It's one of my passions.
No, it definitely is, and I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I'm sure in future episodes we'll chat again. We could talk about how you're in Arkansas. I didn't even know people in Arkansas had all their teeth, but
yeah,
I really want to just kind of dive right into kind of the content. My biggest thought here, my idea for everybody here is I want to make sure that anybody listening to this, whether you be owner operator of a retail location or a vendor or a sales associate inside a store, I want you to be able to listen to this, take 20, 30 minutes out of your day, listen, catch a couple of really good tips and actionable things that you can do today to increase sales, increase customer experience, increase your knowledge in the industry. That's ultimately the goal. So I've got some questions and things for you, William. We'll kind of bust through some of these, and then I've got a few more segments here that we'll talk through some actionable things. But again, one of the things that Sissy's is known for, and I came from outside the industry. I came from the software side of the industry, and just knowing and learning about the retail space, Sissy's Log Cabin always came up as kind of a gold standard of what is excellence. So I'm curious from your perspective at Sissy's, what really drives the sales excellence at the stores?
We talk about it a lot. Zach and I talk about it a lot. It's most companies will specialize in something. So you almost never see a company that's great at everything. And so you don't want to be great at everything. You want to be great at specific things. And so Like the reason that Sissy's has grown so much is like we're very good at selling. And when you really go into anything, I like to say it like this is like when you really devote yourself into trying to be expert level at something, you really, really dissect it. So there's hundreds of different components of a business. And a lot of people want to pick something on there that they're really good at or they're passionate about. But when you're looking at like growing a business, like you're always looking at like what's the limiting factor of that business. And so we always talk about, especially like with our managers, different things like that, is that when you're in retail, you're in a sales organization. And so sales is the biggest limiting factor that you have. Like the more you sell, the easier the game gets. And just by chance, and kind of necessity just to survive. Like we came from an area, South Arkansas, that was in very strong economic decline. Like in my lifetime, there was like, I don't want to get into it, but it would be like your city, manufacturing farming fell out in South Arkansas, mass exodus of the population, GDP of that area going down significantly, which was great because a lot of jewelers moved into that area. But it allowed my grandmother and my dad to build this business from this tiny little log cabin and just making sure every single day, my dad he wouldn't use the term limiting factor. He would use the term as moving the needle. And every single day of every single waking hour, it was, how do I sell more? How do I work with my inventory? Everything focused around that. And like he just did that for decades and then taught us that. And then you just focus on sales, 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 sales. How do you sell more and focus on that? And like, you just get better and better at doing that. And so that's what I would say is the biggest difference with Sissy is like just a complete focus on sales. It's a sales organization. Everything that we do is trying to maximize our sales capacity.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. I think most people also in the industry know you from starting Jewelry Sales Academy as a training, kind of only a training platform of software that I mean a lot of jewelers got on board with as far as like understanding and watching the training. We go to trade shows now and people see you're the guy from the videos. It's like walking around with younger Leonardo DiCaprio over here. So being able to do that and enjoy that training, that makes sense. How does luxury, like the luxury experience, fit for Sissy's differently than I would say most stores?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm like technically I'm third generation, but realistically I'm closer to second generation than I am third generation because my dad was really the one that really pushed the jewelry forward. And so like when I grew up, it was never like, hey, do you want to come do this? It was like, hey, you're going to be there. And so I've worked here my entire life. It's funny as people are like, well, how do you work so much? I'm like, well, you'd be amazed, like when you have insecurity of like falling into poverty, how hard to work. But like talking about George Sales Academy and that luxury experience is like, I always looked at this as like my grandfather was an engineer. I grew up with him. My parents, Sissy, worked a lot. We lived behind the store. I spent a lot of time with him, and it's different it was a very cool experience because I basically grew up with a guy with an engineering mind, but I worked in a retail business. And most people you see in retail learn what you would consider like a luxury experience just by, I call it subconscious behavior. So like, it's like touching the hot stove. You just, over years and years and years of experience, you learn these things. But even I would never, my dad's unbelievable manager, but like he could do it and teach sales associates himself how to do it and learn by osmosis. But to scale that is so different than anything else we see. Like you see most, like Signet is a good example. We've hired people from Signet and they expect very little from their associates. And they expect a lot from marketing. And they look at more strategy as this. We send people in here, our people are replaceable, and they sell items. And, we've heard them say really kind of derogatory things about their staff. But like in independent jewelry, and especially in luxury retail, when you look at the numbers of what it takes to offer a luxury experience, and I consider luxury experience as when somebody sells a higher average ticket amount, is like the pathway of training people to do that is longer, and they have to be with your business longer. And so essentially what you see is like in a high volume independent retailer, 80% of their sales are actually coming from existing customers coming back and buying from them. And so when you start to see it that way, and you start to go and say, okay, this average ticket, as it increases, it's done so by selling higher volume items and also getting return customers. You really have to understand what business you're in, and essentially in luxury and creating luxury experiences, like we're in a recruiting and training business. We're in a business where we try and go recruit people who have the skills to do that, and we try and retain them for a long period of time, because it takes 2 years to really get to where an associate has the clientele to really start leveling up in those sales. And then from that 3rd to 5th year is where they really become profitable for the business and for themselves. And so the whole game in creating a luxury experience and scaling it is, how do you recruiting great people? How do you retain them? And how do you train them to offer that experience consistently? And that's where we started with the Jewelry Sales Academy. And that was one of the things that was so funny to me, was that Zach's on the other side over here, and he'll never forget about this because I still talk about this, is that when we first built all this, to us, it was an operational system. It's exactly what it was. The whole thing, how do we onboard people, train them? How do we increase their average ticket and go through all this? But the industry only knew about training. And so the first show we ever go do, we're at the Innovation Hub at JCK, and we had this pop-up banner, which we've got to find that at some point. And we had a guy on Fiverr design this banner. And so we go over there and I pop it up, and it's broken from the flight coming out there. And we're in the Innovation Hub. And some guy goes, "Oh, you're like one of those sales guys with like his face on the banner." And I was like, "Oh no," because it was such an experience going through that, because to us, it was always, how do you scale independent luxury by building these operational systems? But to the industry, they'd never seen anything like it. And so it was just, oh, this is just sales training stuff.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about like the recruiting aspect of it too. I mean, that's just like something that's kind of built in. It's created kind of a cult like following, if you will, when you think about it. Because I actually, when I came out to Arkansas, I sat down with arguably one of the best clientelers in the industry, Miss Dot House, and sitting down with her, and it was like 5 minutes in, she was like recruiting me to come and start selling in Little Rock, and I was like, I live in Utah, I sell software, I don't sell jewelry. And it was cool to kind of see it in action. I mean, her being one of the top performers, someone that I've actually ever talked to, what are some of the things that you feel like some of the top performers share with you consistently across the board? Like, what are one or two of the traits that they use or do every single day to increase that clienteling experience?
So there's 2 different phases to that, how most people ask me that question. Number one is like, what traits get them there? And so I can go on that later, but like what we see from the top sales associates, and this is something that we actually did this last year, was that when we first started doing the training 5 years ago, I hired improv actors to come in with hidden cameras, and like we started mapping what it actually looked like to offer an experience. And so we were able to track, like if you came in with a 1 carat diamond and wanted to train it to a 2 carat, how quickly somebody got you there, how many pieces somebody showed before that improv actor would pick out a piece they liked. Like we'd give these people scripts to go off of, and they were very good at it. So it's like unbelievable insight into what people did. And what we found with the people who are at the top is incredibly simple, is that they're more interested in learning about that person and then matching an item to that person versus going through and just showing items. And that sounds similar, but like when you boil it down and you think about it like this, is like, okay, it's not, the customer walking in doesn't really know that much about jewelry, if anything. They don't know about the price points. They don't know anything else. So that associate's completely in charge of everything that they see and everything that's pulled out of that case. And so great sales associates, first thing they do, they try and understand that person. The next thing they do is they show a piece of jewelry that is an educated guess as to what that person would like. And then also they show different pieces of jewelry than your bottom tier people. Like typically they show higher end pieces. They show pieces that don't sell as much. And more importantly, they get all the answers from the customers from showing those pieces of jewelry or just learning about their personality and different things like that.
Yeah, kind of. I remember we were talking about this, and Dot pointed out too, like she will always go for kind of the shock and awe is like the first piece, right? That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, I always say it like this in how we train people, we call it battleship. Like, if you've ever played the battleship game where you sit across from each other, you can't see where somebody's deal is, and you say, hey, A1, and it's miss, or A3, you hit my destroyer. Okay, I know how many pins are in that, and I know I missed these other ones. So I use the inventory to answer those questions. I learn more about you. And so I'm not having to draw information out of you. And so what you're seeing is I like to say it like this is I listened to this podcast. I have no idea who it was, but I know it's Patrick Bet David's podcast. And he talked about there's somebody on there and they said like Eskimos know 7 different types of snow. And it's kind of crazy to think about, but like in this podcast, they were talking about how they have to know the different styles of snow, whether it's dry, it's humid, it's fluffy, it's et cetera, because that's how they would recognize the amount of snowfall in the area. So they cross an area. And so like these high-end associates understand at a much higher level the customer that's in front of them. They ask questions to get to the root faster, and they can go through and more intuitively know, okay, this is a super high-end client, or this is a lower end client, or like they know at what level to offer a great experience. And you talk to these people, sometimes it's a $100 repair from a great grandmother that they're going through and fixing and spending time with that person. And sometimes it's $1 million piece of jewelry. But the experience that they're able to offer for those same price points is on the same level of like that emotional understanding and experience to those people. And that's what those people do so well.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I saw it firsthand when I came to Little Rock, to the Sissy location, to see that. But one of the things I've noticed as well, and I want to stay kind of in the vein of like an experienced sales associate, someone's been in the industry for a long time. Jewelry is not known as like an industry that changes a lot of things all the time. And so as like a senior or tenured sales associate, what have you seen change as far as like customers and how they're buying, right? Like how have you guys adapted to the way that customers have kind of changed buying? COVID changed everything, right? And now, I mean, I feel like everything changes every couple of weeks. And so as far as what's going on in the country, et cetera, how have you guys adapted to how customers are buying now?
So I will. This is twofold, and this might sound slightly hypocritical how I say this, but I want to explain it in the best way possible. Is that I do this whole talk. I did this at JCK a few years ago on has the customer changed or have we? I think it's on our YouTube channel, and Zach put some cool music and editing to it, and so it's something cool to listen to if you want to listen to that whole talk. But essentially, what it was it's a story of how I came into jewelry, and the changes that you're seeing now have been happening since the early 2010s, late 2000s with Pinterest, with Facebook, and different things like that. So essentially, think about this. What's changed so much over the years is that in the 2090s, what happened is a customer came in. They had almost no ability to research. They really shopped at stores that had a gemologist or somebody who was GIA accredited that they could trust. And then they would go in and that person would explain to them the value of the diamonds, the styles, the settings. Like the jeweler used to be in almost absolute control of a presentation. The only real research they could do was go and, get like a book or go shop different stores. All right. So what we've seen now is I use this example a lot is like during the pandemic and during those different things like that, think about this is like I used to go into Home Depot or Lowe's a lot. And so I would go in and I used to just go in like on Sundays. That was like our project day at our house where we would go in and just walk around versus what you do now is more so you kind of do research on the items that you want. You look them up in the store and you have an app that tells you exactly where to go. Okay. So talking about what we saw change in jewelry was that number one is that customers want to have a better expectation of what they're walking into. All right. So they also are able to do more research. Okay. So think about it this way is that a customer now can spend an indefinite amount of time online coming up with price expectations, style expectations, everything from there. and then they're going to go on your website and they're going to look and see if you have those styles and those different things and those price points there. So they're still shopping, they're spending more money than they ever are. But the idea of all of your customers just walking in and saying, "Hey, I'm here to look at, I need to get an anniversary gift." That's changed. So now it's, "Hey, I'm looking at diamond studs. I'm looking at something like this." They're more educated on the pricing. They're more educated on the products. They've looked at your website more. They have a better expectation of what they're coming in and looking for. And so that's how we've seen.
How do you guys adapt to that? Because I think, like you said, you talk about the price, like the price point, right? Like they come in with a nice, like I say, I'm asking this for actually from the customer perspective, because I did this years ago before I actually joined the jewelry industry. I was trying to find out exactly how much I should like expect, etc. I went into a store and it was like a few thousand more than what I found on Google or whatever. I was like, right. And then I went to another store because I was like, oh, these guys are trying to rip me off. And they did kind of the same thing. And it was almost about the same price as what I was quoted. So what I had read online was definitely wrong. How do you guys go about adapting to that, I guess, sticker shock, if you will, when a customer comes in after they've done a ton of research?
Well, you have to look at it. So think about that is like when you're a consumer and you're just walking into a business and you don't have any power or like any ability to really negotiate, and you don't have the knowledge of it. You're at a weaker position, and like people don't want to be that way at all. And so you first off, you have to understand the position that you're in. Is like when you're in sales, it is you're in a position where the first thing you have to do is get them to trust you. Like it's very hard. Like in that situation, if you can't have those conversations with that person, uh, like if you came in to me and you'd been looking online, I would have asked you, "Hey, well, have you looked online? Have you been to another store or anything else?" Just so I could get an idea of what you're looking for or what you have in mind. Because what we see now is that people who are below, I'd say 50 years old now, don't have the same negotiation skills that you know people above 50 do. A lot of times you'll get people that are 55, 60, 65 years old, and they will haggle with you just for the fun of it. Whereas now when you get a guy that's 30 years old and he's coming in with prices online and doing different things like that, he's not as apt to say, "Hey, I'm looking at this and you're $3,000 over." Like you have to make that part of the conversation that he can have. And then from there, the thing that's hard for most or sales associates to understand is like what we have the ability to do with diamonds and gold prices, anything is like you can make anything, any price, essentially. You can adjust the 4Cs of the diamond, you can adjust the carat weight of the gold, you can adjust the weight of the gold, you can adjust the quality, you can adjust all these different things and fluctuate a price by indefinite amount to match that person of what they're trying to do. And so a lot of people try and avoid those conversations, and it ends up hurting them because like you've got to understand it's like, hey, the guy in front of you that has been looking online, he's not going to just say, "Hey, dude, you're $10,000 over what I was looking at." Like you've got to figure out some way to work that over with that person and make it to where he can communicate that with you.
Yeah.
He or she.
No, I mean that makes sense. And they kind of did that as well in helping me understand when I went in. I remember very, very clearly just how he explained it to me and why it was more money than what I was seeing online, and explained the differences of those two things, and all the ways they could kind of adjust it. And he did. He did a good job of kind of meeting me somewhere in the middle there with some of those. Probably did some of those adjustments I didn't even really know or recognize, I guess, from the customer perspective. But that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I want to move in to a new segment, since this is all new, called Diamond in the Rough. This is, William, I want to hear from you. What is like one habit or practice or principle that's made like the biggest difference in sales or leadership of a store, but isn't talked about quite enough?
I mean, that's multifold. If I had to boil it down to one thing, it'd just be consistency. Consistency in everything. And so that's not just like, so I would say uh, that when you really delve into something, it really expands every single. It's just like Okay, I see this microphone. All right. Well, then I look a little bit closer and I can see the holes in the foam. And then I look in a microscope and I can see this. And then, you look down, 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 and it gets more and more exact in defining something. And so consistency starts with just understanding that there are no shortcuts and that business is built over a very long period of time. All right. So there's no shortcuts to anything. The next thing is that consistency builds environments where people can work in. And so the more consistent a place is, the better, the more clear expectations there are, the safer people feel going into work, the more easily it is to go through there and build an environment that creates more and more sales. And so consistency in everything is like, you have to just go through. And when you think about consistency, like how can I be the absolute most consistent every single day and go through, because a lot of people don't understand you only get so much time in business. And so like if we know that, like think about it this way, if you have a goal in sales for the end of the year and it's, let's say for a store, it's $5 million, right? You only get 365 days in that year. Your store, if it's open, 6 days a week, maybe it's open 312 days a year or 310 days a year or something. So then you're like, oh my God, I only get 310 days, 300 days to go through this. All right. Then you have to go through time counts to hit those goals. And so you have to think about it. Okay, I've got to be consistent in the way I treat people. Managers have to be consistent. Sales associates have to be consistent. And then that goes through everything from like your onboarding has to be consistent. Your training has to be consistent. Your presentations have to be consistent. The more consistent the environment is, the easier it is for other people to rely on each other and know what's going to happen if they do this or what's going to happen if they mess up. And essentially, like I always break it down to like, the more consistent you can get, the more consistent your outcomes are. And so like the better you can get at things, the easier it is to change your business. Also, I mean, like it's like a Hall of Fame athlete, or a baseball player or anything like that. You're trying to make the game as consistent as possible so you can practice skills and the skills can replicate over and over and over again.
I mean, that's spot on, the consistency thing. And I've seen it even in your life. One fun fact for everybody watching or listening, you consistently are opening a new pack of gum like every 30 minutes to an hour. It's pretty incredible.
Right here. Yeah. I smoked cigarettes for so long. That's what I always tell people, they introduced us from Sissy's and all this other stuff. And I'm like, buddy, I smoked Newport Shorts and drank Busch Light all through high school. Okay. So like, Zach's over there laughing right now. Like everybody in my family smoked cigarettes. I grew up, in a very different world than what people expect of me to. And so like, I always joke around with my wife. I'm like, I've come a lot. It's a miracle I'm even where I'm at right now. So I'm going to drink coffee.
Even down to the gun thing. I mean, watching you even in daily life, like consistency plays a role, not just even at Sissy's or, with us at Jewel. Like you are very consistent throughout every aspect of your life. And I think that's a trait as well that like impacts. I mean, I've been doing sales for going on like 18 years. I started when I was 15. And when I am really like in the pocket, when I'm really selling at my best, it's because I'm consistently doing things to prepare myself for the day. So like, I like to take a cold shower, do a cold plunge every single morning. I like to listen to an audiobook for about 30 minutes just to kind of get my head right and get in the right space. If I'm like running down to a meeting really quick and I'm hurrying and putting on my shirt, I just don't perform as well. Like that consistency and doing even those little things outside of work are really what like helps to like drive and see that success as well. So yeah, I am a nerd. I am a big nerd. Hey.
No, I'm kidding. I got in this years ago. You always hear about, I don't know, when you grow up in a business and you start doing something, like I grew up in this business, so I've just done this my entire life. And, as you get older, if you really want to have impact or change on things, like I remember listening to this thing about like hyper efficient people and what they're able to do. And, we all have the same amount of time every single day. And so essentially, you're going to die one day. Like you have no idea how long you're going to be here. And so, just being able to stack days and days and days and days and days I always say it's like making time, my friend. Is that I played baseball. All I wanted to do was, when I was younger, was be a professional baseball player. And then as I got older, I didn't grow as fast as other guys. I wasn't as strong as other guys. And then I had a dirt bike wreck, couldn't do that. But I always loved that discipline and that daily grind of just competing and competing. And so I just took that same mindset and put it into business and was like, okay, if what I really loved was getting better over a longer amount of time. And the coolest thing about that is, like, when you um, are competing against other people, it's very small decisions in your life that really separate you apart versus like when you're younger. Like if you're 6 inches taller or 40 pounds heavier than somebody, like, you're going to win. All right. But over 3 to 5 years or maybe 10 years, you can solidly outwork that other person and make time your friend and just get better and better every single day. And so that's what I like to do. My favorite thing is I'm extremely competitive. I love to beat people in anything that I do. And like, I understand that if you're better than me today, that does not guarantee that you're going to be better than me in 5 years. And I will drink coffee and chew gum until I'm better than you.
That was awesome. Okay, well, this has been really awesome. I've got one last segment here, and it'll kind of lead us into ending the podcast here, giving people something. I call this the quick hit takeaways section. So I've got 3 questions. I'm going to cut you off if you start to talk too long. So I know you like to talk. So I'll make sure to cut you off. So first question for you. One non-negotiable standard to maintain a luxury environment jewelry store.
Consistency in the principle of teamwork.
Principle of teamwork. I'm actually going to let you expand for like 1 second on that. What do you mean?
If you want a luxury environment, it's created from a team. And so the thing that you have to do is you can't tolerate people coming in late, people not pulling their weight. It's a team effort. So if anybody is not pulling their weight, it gets pushed upon somebody else. And that's how it all falls down.
One thing every jeweler should stop doing immediately.
A misunderstanding of their business is that if you're in retail, you're in sales. You're not in gemology. You're in a sales organization, and you need to focus on sales.
On sales. All right, and last one. One thing every sales associate should start doing this week.
Organization
of
their day to day. So, like, just how we talked about consistency, organizing your day to day, understanding, going in every day with a plan of, these are the people I need to follow up with. This is my sales goal. This is what I need to do. Doing it, staying organized, and knowing what you're supposed to do every single day versus just showing up.
No, I like it. All right. Well, a couple of quick takeaways then for everybody to recognize. I think, I mean, at least for me, consistency in really everything is kind of what you hit on there. Focusing on the fact that, like, you are in sales. If you're a sales associate, if you're running a jewelry store, your job is sales, and creating that non-negotiable standard of just teamwork. Everybody holds everybody accountable, and accountability. If you do those things consistently, it sounds like that is kind of the key to success and what it takes to, like, be in a jewelry store, see success at a retail, as a retail jeweler. This was awesome, William. Thanks so much for taking time. I know, again, you're really busy between Sissy's, between the other companies that you have going as well. I know you're super busy, so I appreciate you taking time with us. I'm excited for the next episode. I'm not going to tease anything because it's not quite planned yet, but it's going to be awesome. Yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in, listening in. Hopefully you got something out of this. Make sure to go apply it today. Take something from today and apply it today. But William, thanks so much for being here with us. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, man. Absolutely.